Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 5th episode of the Dialogue Change Forum. I'd like to welcome all of you, the ones who've gathered here, and the ones who are watching us live on ThePapare.com, my TV, the Change YouTube channel, and of course, Dialogue TV. Like I said before, this is the 5th edition of the Dialogue Change Forum. The first one happened way back in 2015, with the objective of encouraging people to have a positive perspective to change. It was first open only to staff in a particular department in Dialogue. Given the popularity it garnered, we opened it up to everyone in the organization and, of course, the general public, which garnered large numbers in participation. And to date, we have more than 2,000 people who've benefited from the Dialogue Change Forum. The forum has completed 4 episodes, this being the 5th one. The previous versions have had 16 speakers in total, coming from various industries and various segments of life, sharing their change story. From segments like the airline industry, sports, technology, entertainment, coaching, entrepreneurship, and it even featured the first Sri Lankan to have summited Mount Everest. Now we will take a look at a quick intro, which gives you a highlight of today's episode. To welcome all of you, ladies and gentlemen, officially to this edition of the Dialogue Change Forum, I'd like to invite our Group Chief Customer Officer, Sandra De Souza, to please join us on stage.
Thank you, Ajmal. A very warm welcome to all you lovely, wonderful change agents of the API Dialogue family. It's great to meet once again. Now, I'm not sure it is the 5th or the 6th one, but Prashanta here is the author, the initiator, and inventor of this wonderful change program. I'm privileged and honored to have such wonderful people working with me who has managed to do this. So, Prashanta, if I were to ask you, is it the 5th or the 6th? The 6th, yeah, okay, fine. So we've had 5, 6, this is our 6th change forum. And across this time that we've spent, we've been able to garner the interest and foster the interest of not just our division and not just across the company, but across customers and partners as well. So because the program was well established within a short period of time, we also opened it out to our external customers and partners. For this year, this is our first, and would you believe it? We opened the portal for requests and invites. Can any one of you guess how long it took to fill up these 200 plus seats? Give me any guesses. Sorry? Half an hour? Any more guesses? Sorry? Yeah, I think you are from my division, you know the answer. So it took 10 minutes for us to get 500 plus positions filled. And unfortunately, we don't have 500 seats we can accommodate here, as a result of which we have about 50% of that in here at the auditorium. But the rest are able to join us and be part of this wonderful forum through the various channels that we've set up. My special thanks goes out also to the various others from external parties who are also here with us today, from Derana and ThePapare and all of those who've been able to be kind enough to join us, and also BBC's involvement here as well. So with grateful thanks, I'd like to ask all of you to enjoy these sessions, join in the session. When it comes to the Q&A session, please join in and be part of the Change Forum, an active part of the Change Forum. I'm just very quickly going to try to introduce two people that absolutely need no introduction. And I will start first with our superstar. Everybody knows Mahela. He's world-renowned. I don't need to give him an introduction. But the reason we have him here today is because not only is he just a superstar for cricket, but also subsequent to retiring from the national cricket team, I'm sure that's a change that is in your life. What does that feel like? So we would also like to try to understand from you, Mahela, the personal change in your life and how it is and what you're doing differently and your experience and challenges through how you're maneuvering this stardom, which of course you still have and you will have forever, and how and the impact of that that you bring about now in your life on a day-to-day basis. And of course, then we have Dr. Rainer Deutschmann, who is not a stranger to any one of you. Firstly, because he stands so tall, yes, and absolutely stands out in every way. He's our Chief Operating Officer, as all of you know, and a fabulous addition to the API Dialogue family, not only because he's here to share with us changes in terms of digitization and the path we've taken and his contribution towards it, his ideas, his thoughts on how we will go there, how we will help us, how he will help us get there, these grand plans that we have, but also because of the fact that his move from India, his stint with Jio, and then moved to Sri Lanka, and what that means for himself personally, for his family. Also his move, his experience from a completely different part of the world to our part of the world. As you know, he's German, so he's obviously been working in a different part of the world, and then, you know, come and sort of now well settled down in our part of the world, which obviously he does because he likes it. I know he enjoys being, whether it be India or Sri Lanka or China or this part of the world. So what's all that about for him personally, and what's that change about? I'd like him to discuss all of that as well with you. And then, of course, I will make sure that we have ample time for some questions so that all of you have the opportunity to ask questions. Consequent to that, I think we may also have a surprise visitor, and I'm saying surprise because it would be a surprise if he does come here, and therefore it's a surprise visitor, right? I'm not going to tell you who it is, but I'm sure we are in the communications industry and communications business, so everyone knows everything even before you start thinking about it or talking about it. So it may not be any surprise to you, but that's the lineup and plan we have for you today. And I would like to request all of you to enjoy the next, couple of hours or 1.5 hours we have planned for you, and to, take the time to spend subsequently. I know the most popular activity will become photographs with Mahela. Rainer, don't feel bad about it. It's just that's just how it is, right? Anywhere our glorious cricketers go, especially the likes of Mahela, everybody else, you don't care whether it's the President Donald Trump here, but Mahela is the star. Everybody goes and stands to take pictures with him. And the rest of the speakers always feel like, what happened to us? We're left behind, right? But that's just that whole stardom effect that Mahela has. So please feel free, certainly, to have photographs taken with Mahela and enjoy all of that. And of course, we also have a third or a fourth star, one that is not so human, if you may have noticed. So we may also just go around to introduce, third or fourth star latest venture, which also you will hear about very soon. So that's part of the days. And just enjoy this session, and thank you so much for being part of the Change Forum 2018. Because of its popularity, we're planning on having and continuing to have the external forum as well, which we are now planning, and plans are underway. So probably in about a quarter, in the next couple of months, we will bring to you a program that can accommodate a wider and a larger audience, not just of staff, but also of customers, of partners, and everyone else who likes to be part of the Change Forum. So look forward to that as well in another couple of months. And thank you so much for being here. And thank you for your efforts and cooperation. A special thanks to my own team, who puts in a lot of effort, led by Prashanthan, to make sure that we, on our own, for no reason at all other than pure motivation, to bring people together and to bring speakers in the likes of Mahela and all others from the, the outside world, as well as from our own, like our own CEO and our COO and so many others who've spoken in other forums, to come and talk about change, what it means, and to establish this movement about change and what change means. The entire objective being, it's not for achievement of a reward, recognition, KPI, level 5, level 3, nothing of those things, just the pure passion of one person who's brought together a team, expecting nothing in return, and then grown it to what it is today and what it can be, to a movement, just purely on the motivation that change is good, change needs to be embraced, change is a wonderful thing, and asking all of you colleagues in the API Dialogue family to jump right in the middle, get on with being a change agent, because change is always only for the good, only for the better. And that is all that we want to establish, motivate, and inculcate in the API Dialogue family. With that, thank you so much.
හැමෝම ඇවිල්ලා. ඔයාලා විතරයි අඩුවට හිටියේ. එන්න එන්න. හරි හරි ඔක්කොම බලන්න පුළුවන්. මේ බලන්න. මේ තෙරපොල්. මේ කාලේ ඕන දෙයක් ක්ෂණිකව දැනගන්න පුළුවන්. මෙන්න ඔසීන්න ඇන්ඩ්‍රු කතා කරනවා. හලෝ ඇන්ඩ්‍රු. මුළු ක්ලික් එකම අද අපේ ගෙදර. පොඩි ලොකු හැමෝම අද අපේ ගෙදර. මේ හැමෝම සතුටු කරන්න අපේ ගෙදර සුපර් ෆාස්ට් ඉන්ටර්නෙට් වගේම ඇතිතරම් ඩේටා තියෙන්නේ ඩයලොග් හෝම් බ්‍රෝඩ්බෑන්ඩ් නිසා. සිල් සංගායනා. අපි නෙක්ස්ට් වීක් එකෙත් එනවා. රයිට්. මගේ ඩයලොග් මගේ විදියට මගේ සුපර් හෝම් එකේ. ලංකාවේ අපිට නම් ඩයලොග් තමයි.
Thank you so much, Sandra, for the welcome. I believe you've done a large part of my job too in doing the introductions for the speakers. If you've looked at the profile of the speakers who are supposed to come, you see that Courtney Walsh is missing. That's because he's got a few pressing commitments and won't be able to take part in the first segment of the show, but he's promised us that he will try his best to join us for the panel discussion. So for now, we have two speakers. I'd like to request the one sitting to come forward, because we've got a few unreserved chairs. You can make your way forward and occupy those seats, get a better view of what's happening, a panel discussion, closer pictures, all that is in stake if you want to come to the front. However, what I will do now is introduce our first speaker for the day. He is Dialogue's Group Chief Operating Officer and overlooks the group's business units, corporate planning, M&A, and corporate strategy. He has over 20 years of in-depth experience in telecommunications, online, cloud, IT services, media, entertainment, e-commerce, digital marketing, and corporate strategy in mature and emerging markets. Now, that's a lot. Across startups and multinationals. Prior to joining Dialogue, he served as the Chief Product and Innovation Officer, at Reliance Jio India, like Sandra rightly pointed out, and was directly responsible for setting up Jio's business units and leading the launch program. Preceding Reliance Jio, he was a senior vice president, core telco products at Deutsche Telekom AG, Germany, building and leading Deutsche Telekom's core product portfolio across 14 European markets. He also served as chairman of the board of directors, Deutsche Telekom UK Limited as a senior vice president, mobile products, Deutsche Telekom AG as a senior vice president, mobile internet, and T-Mobile International AG as a vice president, strategy development, Dutch Telekom AG. During his 5 years at McKinsey & Company, he served high-tech and telco clients across Europe. He holds a doctoral degree in physics from the University of Technology in Munich and has worked as a computation and neuroscience researcher at the California Institute of Technology. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Dr. Rainer Doschmann.
Thank you so much for the two very kind introductions. I really love it. Thank you for inviting me. It's a great honor speaking today. Can't be a better topic than change. I might surprise even you, Sandra, because I could have talked about our own change program. We have a massive change program ongoing. All of you are involved. I don't do that. I could have talked about my own change program, which is my few steps that I've done earlier. I don't do that. I talk about change, however. And I start with basically yesterday an event which I found quite sad. I start with a sad thing. I don't know if I should do that, but I do it. One of the most prestigious physicists has died. You know probably who it is, Stephen Hawking. Amongst many things that he has contributed to mankind, he has discovered that, for example, black holes are not actually black. I'm a physicist, as it was said in the introduction, so I thought it's adequate to start with a quote from him. And he was saying, our population and our use of the finite resources of planet Earth are growing exponentially, along with our technical ability to change the environment for good or for ill. So there are three profound statements in that quote. One is around the issues coming with the growing population. Second one is the fact that we have the fate in our own hand by means of technology and innovation. And third, the fact that we are living in an exponential world. Now, what does it mean, exponential? I want to share a few thoughts around that themes, which might help you to give a few thoughts for your own life and for your own career. So exponential, I can explain, maybe all of you know what is called Moore's Law. Gordon Moore was one of the co-founders of Intel. And in 1965, he discovered a relationship. It's not actually a law, it's more a relationship, which was around saying that the number of transistors in an integrated circuit double approximately every 2 years. And actually it has been proven that that relationship between the number of transistors in an integrated circuit to double approximately every 2 years is holding true almost until today. In parts even with an accelerating pace, so it was doubling even faster. And even it has been shown that if you look at the computational power, that law or that relationship was even true before 1965, before he was discovering this for integrated circuits. It was true for the tubes, it was true for the switches when we did computation on a mechanical basis. Now the implications of that exponential development are very profound. I'll give you a few examples which probably you know, but it's just interesting. For example, if you look at the 3D printing, now all of you know what is 3D printing. In 2007, when largely the first kind of 3D printers came about, you would have paid $40,000 US for a 3D printer. Today, you're spending not more than a few $100s. When drones were first coming into existence, you would have spent 100,000 US dollars in 2008. Now you can buy this as a toy for $100. LiDAR sensors, which are the key enablers for self-driving cars, as you might know, because they are mapping the depth of the direction that you're looking into. They have been coming for about $200,000 in 29, and you can buy them for $100 today. Sequencing of your entire genome, reading your entire plan in your cells, would have cost you about 10 million US dollar when it was first possible in 27. And I've done my genetics test a year ago with 23andMe for 99 bucks. Last example is on solar cells, again a different example, but also striking. When it first started to become really commercial, you would have paid about 30 US dollar for a kilowatt hour. Now you pay less than 10 cents, even about 6 cents per kilowatt hour for solar cells. So all of these relationships are coming because it's an exponential improvement of the performance based on technology and innovation. Now the human brain, however, has one issue. The human brain cannot grasp exponential behavior. It's a very important flaw that is good to understand because it explains a lot of the things that are happening. So if I explain exponential with a simple like human examples, if I take 30 steps along this direction with one step about a meter, I would have walked obviously 30 meters. If I would have taken 30 exponential steps, which means I'm taking one step and then I'm taking a step that is double the size and I'm taking a step that is 4 times the size and so on, I would have circled the Earth 26 times around. Right? So it's unimaginable what the difference is between 30 steps linear and 30 steps exponential. So companies have failed because the managers of companies are humans still, and the humans cannot cope with exponential behavior. Good example that I find interesting to always look at is the Kodak example. I think most of you might still remember Kodak. I'm not sure all of you. It used to be in 1976 the absolute world market leader for photographic kind of things. They were commanding 90% of the market share for film, and they were commanding 85% of the market share for camera sales in the US. In the same year, 1976, there was an engineer. His name was Steven Sassoon, walking into the boardroom of Kodak. He was presenting a piece of about 4 kilograms, and that piece was the first standalone digital camera. It was 0.01 megapixel. And what do you think the managers of Kodak would have told him? They told him, go away. That piece of rubbish cannot match our quality ambition. We are a high quality company. And by the way, anyways, your technology will only hurt us because we are producing paper and we are printing on paper. And obviously, in 2012, Kodak filed bankruptcy under Chapter 11 in the US. So what is the learning and what can we take as an opportunity out of these facts and figures for all of us, for companies and for individuals? It's good to be mindful about 4 principles which I try to extract from these stories. First of all, there's an abundance. There's an abundance which removes barriers of entry. Means all of you, all of us, can actually take action. Give you a few examples. Abundance of connectivity and speed. Nobody is going to be not connected. Almost nobody is not connected these days. You can get an Mbps, you get 10 Mbps. With a fiber, you get 100 Mbps or a gigabit per second. Second example is information. Now, even in the remotest part of the world, if you have connectivity, you can tap into the best of the world information. One example that I like to give is the Khan Academy. If you don't know, you look it up. It's giving you an amazing amount of information. In Dialogue, we are using Linda to give it to each and every employee to make sure that we are tapping into the best of the information of the planet. There's no hurdle. You can access it day and night whenever you like. Third example is computing power. Now, obviously, with this development of the integrated circuit density, computing power is there in abundance. And computing power is now independent of hardware. Nobody has to buy a computer anymore these days. You can sign up, you can spin up your own private virtual server on AWS or on Google within a few minutes. I've done it within 15 minutes. I spun up a server and I did my RStudio for data analytics. Everyone can do it. Even you can do it for free because there's a free tier. You don't even have to pay. Only you pay if you use a certain amount of computation power. So there's no hurdle for even doing hardcore computation in the best of the world's computers these days. And there's tools, open source tools, which everyone can use free of charge. There's no hurdle to even use anything around the DevOps value chain. And of course, there's what I call X as a service, which means whatever you need to pay, typically you pay only on demand. So there's no entry hurdle that prevents you from even starting. If you use more, ideally if you make more money, then you only pay more. So the whole entry hurdle is gone. There's no barrier to entry because of abundance of these things. Second, in our exponential world, the only constant is change. And I think that's to the core of what the presentation should be about. The only constant is change. And because of the exponential world, the rate of change is only increasing. Right? It's not only changing, but we are even increasingly changing with a higher speed every single day, every single month, every single year. Now, a few facts and figures. Around 14% of the companies that have been in the Fortune 500 in 1955 are even still alive today. So pretty much everyone has died in terms of big companies. At the same time, new companies are rising at an ever-increasing pace. A typical Fortune 500 company took about 20 years to reach $1 billion in market cap. If you look at Google, founded in 1998, took them 8 years. If you look at Facebook, founded in 2004, took them 5 years. If you look at Uber or WhatsApp, founded in 2009, took them 2 years. And if you look at Snapchat, founded in 2011, took them about 1 year to reach $1 billion market cap. And as I said, constant learning is the absolute requirement, and it's your opportunity, because if you look at the business competency, which used to be about 30 years a while ago in 1980s, the business competency is outdated within a few years these days. So you cannot rely on knowing something today because it's outdated tomorrow. That's why you have to be constant learning. Third thing, if you are an existing company like ourselves, always remind yourself it's better to disrupt yourself than to be disrupted by someone else. Everyone knows the classical examples of Amazon versus the retailers, of Uber versus the taxi companies, of Airbnb versus the hotel industries. That's very clear. All of these have one common theme in common, which is that they're creating a platform business and they are taking out non-value adding middlemen, what I call. And they, by that way, improve the customer experience tremendously. Now there's new platforms coming up, and I just want to mention them. New platforms which I find even more exciting. Platforms like the blockchain. Platforms that are actually decentralizing further. Because all these examples that I've given so far have been quite central organizations. Now with Ethereum, a smart contract engine, and distributed applications, you will see that even those earlier disruptors are going to be disrupted very soon if they don't move on. Which I find very exciting. Again, it's your opportunity. Don't believe that WhatsApp is there forever. They will be disrupted if you do the right thing. The fourth theme is saying that your competition, if you are a company today, is not necessarily the other big company out there. Your competition is the plethora of small and innovative startups and companies, small and innovative teams that are coming very fast and embracing the opportunities of change and exponential. So small teams. In 2014, as you might know, when WhatsApp got acquired by Facebook for $19 billion, WhatsApp was run by 50 engineers. 50. That's the size of a company with that market cap. And if I look at the startups today, or the unicorns, what I call today, with a market cap of $1 billion or more, typically they are not more than a few tens to a few hundreds of people. You don't need thousands and thousands of people to be a successful company these days. Because again, entry hurdles are so low. Larger organizations like ourselves, what we are doing is we are starting to progressively dissolve hierarchies. We don't really care so much about hierarchies. We care about business. We care about innovation. We care about getting the right people on the topic and empowering them. That's why we talk about agile teams. That's why we talk about cross-functional teams. That's why we talk about agile delivery. Also, we are shifting in that way to become much more competency-based. So we're looking at UX experts, we're looking at product managers, we're looking at front-end developers, we're looking at back-end developers, we're looking at QA people. All the right people only come together, and you typically have a handful, maybe 5, maybe 10, maybe maximum 15 people to deliver one of these innovations. So I think we are living in great times of change, of exponential change. I think it's on all of us to embrace the opportunities. Pick your passion and create an MVP is my plea. MVP stands for minimal viable product. You don't have to do a big thing, start small. My daughter has done it. When she was 9, she published her first application in the Google Play. So I think if she can do it in a weekend, you also can do it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so very much, Dr. Rainer. I love the brilliant talk. Great intro, and you drove us into a real perspective of what's happening in change, particularly how the solar cells, 3D printing, and drones have changed, and also the principles of the foundation of the digital camera. I'd love the part where you said how you compared how Snapchat got to 1 billion users in just 1 year, while its competitors took several decades to get there. Thank you so much. One more time for Dr. Rainer. Up next, I'd like to introduce to you our second speaker. He is a former Sri Lankan cricketer and the captain of the Sri Lankan cricket team. He's regarded as one of the most great or the best batsmen the country and probably why the world has seen as well. His highest test score, 374 against South Africa, is the highest test score by a right-hand batsman in the history of test cricket and is the 4th highest in the world. He carries a rare record of having more than 10,000 runs in both tests and ODIs. His international awards of many include the ICC Captain of the Year in 2006, Wisden Cricket of the Year in 2007, the ICC Spirit of Cricket Award in 2013. In 2006, he also shared the world record partnership of 624 runs alongside Kumar Sangakkara, which is the highest test partnership for any wicket in test history. Following his career as a player, he was signed by the England Cricket Board as a batting consultant in 2015, and further in 2017, he was appointed as the coach of the Mumbai Indians for the 10th edition of the IPL, in which the Mumbai Indians went on to win. I am sure most of us here have cheered loudly for him when he scored that 100 in the 2011 World Cup final, when he raised his bat to denote the highest test partnership in the world, when he made 374, if not for all this, at some point in his magnificent career that spanned over 17 years. In the unlikely situation, you've never cheered this man before. Here's your opportunity to put your hands together for Mahela Jayawardena.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for that introduction. And thank you very much for Dialogue for inviting me for this Change Forum. Ryan, a great speech. I don't know what about just cricket skills, but you'll definitely be a very good opening batsman for us to follow up. An exponential way, yes. Success via change. I think it's a great topic in era that we live, where technology has probably taken over. But at the same time, I think values of people are being taken for granted. I think it's important that we try and facilitate both technology and values together. I think that'll be a great partnership. Importance of change, I think that's something that we need to identify first. Why do we need change? It's a very simple way of me putting it across. I'm sorry if I'm picking on the ladies, but it's like a hairstyle. Whether you want it short, shoulder length, long, how do you want to maintain it? It's that simple. It's an individual challenge, how you want to perceive, how do you want to express yourself, how do you want to express yourself with things that is around you and things that you have learned over the years, which is sometimes you've taken for granted. I think the most important thing that you have to realize is that everyone has a foundation. Everyone has a foundation to build on, and how you build that. When people forget about the foundation, that's when you don't understand where your direction is. I think the foundation is the most important thing, the upbringing, the learnings that you have, and the hours and hours and hours of time that you spend. I think every day you learn something, and how do you manage that and look to the future and make those changes? It could be in your office environment, it could be on your own doing something, it could be the mindset that you need to change. It could be anything. I think if I just take a few things here and there are so many opportunities, there's so many ways of you changing yourself, the people around you, the corporates that you're involved with. And that is how, like Ryan explained, that little changes have evolved over the years, and where we are right now in 2018. And it hasn't taken long. Maybe from the 1920s to come to 1970s, it's taken 50 years, but since then, the changes have happened so quickly. Some have taken 20 years, some have taken a year. So the speed that we are traveling right now, I think there's no room for complacency. There's no room for people to think twice, but to evolve and embrace change. I will take few anecdotes from sports to see whether that can be related to the changes that we had to make as cricketers. Obviously, you saw my mate smiling away in that advertisement. We both made our international appearances about a year apart, 2 years apart. But we realized that the modern day cricket was going in a different direction. And we needed to make changes. And obviously, the domestic cricket structure that Sri Lanka possessed at that time didn't allow us to do that. But we alone started thinking differently. We were looking at ways of us individually, how can we improve, how can we change our training methods, how can we be different to what everyone would perceive us, because the technology was catching up. The analyzing methods were much, much better. So if we play to a certain pattern, it's quite easy for our opponents to see our weaknesses. So we then started training differently. We kept changing the way we bat, the way we look at test cricket, how we looked at one-day cricket later on. Obviously, latter part of our career was T20 cricket. So the technology played a big part, but at the same time, that instinctiveness, that how we want to evolve, took us to a different level. And that is where we got challenged, and that is where we tried to be different. And yes, we make mistakes. When you try to be different, there is room for mistakes, and you shouldn't be afraid of that. Without making mistakes, you will not learn how to get things right. It's the ones who actually put their hand up and acknowledge that you made a mistake, but the processes that you had followed, if it's right, and then you will realize where you made the mistakes, and then you can still make those changes and move on. So that was the early part of our career, how we had to adapt. And then the second part of our career was something that was interesting. We realized that we had to prepare ourselves after cricket. And I know it's a huge a mental barrier that you have to go across as a professional cricketer. You know what you have been, you've learned since I was probably 8 years old, been training day in and day out to be a cricketer. And then you know that at one point I have to give up that. And you have to prepare yourself, you have to be ready to acknowledge that that change is going to happen. And then you make the decisions, how are you going to do that? Because Sandra rightly said the fame is obviously something that you will be recognized, but at the same time it's a different fame. You know, you're not playing for your country anymore, and you're not going to be in the limelight anymore, which is brilliant. I enjoy that, not being in the limelight, not have to bear the burden of, you know, playing for Sri Lanka, which I've enjoyed, which I was very proud of. But it's a different thing, and you try and set yourself different goals beyond cricket and see what works for you. Where do you want to challenge yourself, whether it's business, whether it's a different area or whatever. So those are changes that you as individuals have to make and be ready for. So we made those adjustments quite early before we had to retire, and we were quite prepared and ready, and we knew the exact time that we needed to move on. So in life, I think you need to be bold to make those decisions and be ready for that. And in some areas, like I earlier said, you will make those mistakes, but you'll never learn without making mistakes. And change for anyone is wonderful. Don't be afraid of it. In which capacity, however you want to do, that's always going to give you a challenge to think about. And you should embrace that. Everyone says think outside the box. What is thinking outside the box? It's not, there's no box actually, you need to think laterally. But end of the day, there are fundamentals that guides you to think outside the box. Some of the destinations that you need to arrive is pretty much the same for a lot of the people. It's how you get there. Whether the direction that you're taking is the right path, or can you find other ways and means of getting there. It's not about how quickly you get there, but getting there. And along the way, different challenges comes, life challenges. You know, it's family, it's marriage, it's kids, various other things for everybody, because we're all humans. So how do you make those changes and at the same time get to that positions that you all strive for in life and be part of that? For me, something has worked, and this was told to me when I was about 19. 20 was a cricketer, ex-South African cricketer, didn't play much cricket for South Africa because of the apartheid, a guy called Barry Richards. So Barry did a coaching stint with us for 2 weeks, and initially when he said this, as a 20-year-old, I did not understand that. It took me some time to realize how strong those 2-3 words were. He said, control what you can control. It is pretty simple when you think about it. So initially I applied that for my cricket. So for me, the simple theory in that is that the more time that you spend thinking about uncontrollables, you're actually wasting. So for me, on a cricketing terms, if I'm touring England in early summer, It's going to be 10 degrees, 11, 12. On a good sunny day, it will turn up to 15. It's cold, and they always put up in Durham, Derby, to make sure that we're freezing. So what can I control? I can control the things that I wear, the thermals, the sweaters, and all that, which is in my power, and how I mentally prepare myself. Go to England, go to Australia, we're going to get bouncy, grassy wickets. I can't control that. That's how they're going to prepare the wickets. So rather than worrying about that, let me prepare myself to play on those wickets. Focus on the little things that I can do. Challenge myself, change my technique, apply myself, different things. The media is going to take a center stage. They're going to, abuse us, do things, not abuse, but, write us off. The fans are definitely going to abuse us. But I can control that. I don't have to read newspapers. I don't have to see the news. I can completely avoid that. I don't have to listen to the fans. I mean, English fans or the Australian fans. So the thing is, I try to control things I can control. And that makes things much simpler. And you have better focus in driving yourself to push yourself. And that's one way of you thinking out of the box. Simple as that. So then I apply that for my day-to-day life, my everything, how I approach things. So I only control what I can control. And to leave a thought, I'm a very proud Sri Lankan. Very proud Sri Lankan. It doesn't drive me to be the race, the caste, or whoever we are. We're born to this island nation, and there's no other place for us to go. So I think let's control what we can control. Let's be the best we can be, and let us fight to take this country to the next level so that we could be very proud Sri Lankans. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful afternoon.
ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ අංක 1 සහ වේගවත්ම ජාලය Dialog within prepaid 4G home broadband. දැන් කනෙක්ෂන් එකක් සමග GB 20ක් නොමිලේ. පහසුවෙන් top up කරන්න. මාසික ගස්තු නැත. ඔබේ නිවස හෝ ව්‍යාපාරය 4G broadband සමග බලගන්වන්න. Dialog අනාගතය අදයි.
හැමෝම ඇවිල්ලා. ඔයාලා විතරයි අඩුවට හිටියේ. එන්න. හරි ඔක්කොම බලන්න පුළුවන්. මේ බලන්න. මේ තෙරපොල්. මේ කාලේ ඕන දෙයක් ක්ෂණිකව දැනගන්න පුළුවන්. මෙන්න ඔසීන්න ඇන්ඩ්‍රු කතා කරනවා. හලෝ ඇන්ඩ්රු. මුළු ක්ලික් එකම අද අපේ ගෙදර. පොඩි ලොකු හැමෝම අද අපේ ගෙදර. මේ හැමෝම සතුටු කරන්න අපේ ගෙදර සුපර් ෆාස්ට් ඉන්ටර්නෙට් වගේම ඇතිතරම් ඩේටා තියෙන්නේ Dialog home broadband නිසා. සිල් සංගාන. අපි next week එකෙත් යනවා. right. මගේ Dialog මගේ විදියට මගේ සුපර් හෝම් එකේ. ලංකාවේ අපිට නම් Dialog තමයි.
ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ අංක 1 සහ වේගවත්ම ජාලය Dialog within prepaid 4G home broadband. දැන් කනෙක්ෂන් එකක් සමග GB 20ක් නොමිලේ. පහසුවෙන් top up කරන්න. මාසික ගස්තු නැත. ඔබේ නිවස හෝ ව්‍යාපාරය 4G broadband සමග බලගන්වන්න. Dialog අනාගතය අදයි.
Right, thank you so much, Mahila. I think it was a lovely talk. Right from the point where you started on how you need to change early, adapt to change early, identify what's coming your way, and the relationship between how you and Kumar managed to identify it early and bring it to life. Further, I think you ended off with this line, but better Richard told, control what you can control. I think this is not only a line that will motivate change, but also inner peace and also keep your focus on where you need to keep it. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, one more time for Mahila Jawa. What we have next is the panel discussion, which means the forum is open to everyone here to ask questions. If you want to grab a microphone and ask your question, that is possible too. If not, we'll continuously flash methods on how you can ask us questions on the screen. Just follow the method, and we'll be able to ask these questions. To do that, I'd like to first invite our speakers to join me on stage, Mahila Jayawardena and Dr. Rainer Ashman. Ladies and gentlemen, for that. First up, thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining in this panel discussion. I'd like to first take my question to Dr. Rainer. You've spoken, I've went through your profile. I did a bit of introduction in the beginning as well. I get the feeling that I realize if there's anything about technology that you don't know, looks like you've mastered everything. You've seen technology in various perspectives. The good thing is from different parts of the world too. And now you're here in Sri Lanka in one of the tech leading organizations. Do you think the level of technology usage in Sri Lanka is satisfactory, or is there a step we need to take ahead?
I think everyone has to take a step ahead. There can be nobody that says, and I try to convey this in my little words, nobody can say, I know it. I think it will be a foolish kind of a statement. It's really about continuous eagerness to improve and a continuous openness to question ourselves. And that requires a certain self-confidence also, which I feel I've seen in so many individuals here. And I see in Dialog as a company here, which is one of the reasons why I'm so excited, because you can be good today, and I think we are a fairly good company, but we can never rest. We can never say we have the fastest network today. It might not be the fastest tomorrow. We can never say we have the best customer service with Sandra, but tomorrow it might be different. So we have to every day listen to our customers in our case. We have to every day look at the KPIs in our network. We have to every day look at what competition is doing and see that we are better. We have to every day see what innovations are out there in the world. Because Sri Lanka, as much as we are an island, obviously we are now a global community. And I don't think we should be just confining our view to the island. And anyways, we are not doing that. So we have to see that we are a global marketplace. We have to see we are a global innovation community. And so that's why we have to have a global view. So
I think you've boiled down to what you said in the beginning. Change is the only thing that's constant, so everything else does change. Given that there's no point of saying we are good or we are bad, because it changes every day. Thank you so much, Dr. Rainer. Next question I'd like to ask. So here's the deal. Before I do get to Mahila, the questions that you do send in will be moderated and sent over to me through the mobile phone. If I find anything fascinating, I'll push it right away. If you do not send in any questions, then I will continue to ask the questions that I want, which is not the objective. So I strongly ask you to send in any questions that you want to ask. But first question from Mahila. I think I want to ask you, Mahila, this is something very important, because you've gone through a lot of change in your life. Let it be cricket or even before that, where your stop in career when you were 17 years old, coming back to the team, coming into the team, becoming captain, stepping down, becoming captain again. But you've mastered all these waves of change. I'd say you've surfed on it like a class surfer. How do you manage to overcome all these different phases of change that's hit you in life?
I'll have to be honest, I'm not a great surfer at all. Knees are not that good. But yeah, I think, like I said before, it's about reacting to situations and identifying where you are at that particular moment. I obviously try and live that moment, because that's the only thing that you can control. The past obviously gives you knowledge. The future is an uncertainty. But if you control the moment where you live right now, and then you can adapt to the future. So all the changes I made was with the knowledge that I've learned from the past, and then try and control that moment and thinking what my future is going to be. So the cricketing career, the decisions I made throughout that career, taking over the captaincy, letting it go, obviously I had to take back over because of the situation the team was in. And then again I let it go because I needed to make sure that Sri Lanka cricket moves on and we build for the future. So all that was made with a conscious effort to do the right thing. That's the most important thing, and be prepared to do that. So I try and keep things very simple, try and make decisions on simple theories that I feel that it's proactive. But we never know. I mean, I've made crazy decisions which hasn't gone well. Some decisions have gone well. The only good thing is you learn from that, and you get experience, and going forward, the wrong decisions becomes less and less and less, hopefully.
Good experience.
and then you try and see how best you can evolve and do the right thing. So so far it's been a great ride, and hopefully I can stay on board.
Thank you so much, Mail. I think you kept it back. I think both you gentlemen have stick to that mantra of sticking to your main message. His first question was answered by the lines of saying, change is the only thing that's constant, and you boiled back to the same thing of control what you can control, keep it simple, decide based on what's happening, and then make decisions based on simple theories. Thanks. I think we've got our first question that's come in, which is nice. So this question goes to Dr. Reiner. How do you change yourself towards different cultures, people, organizations? What do you see as your success factor for change? I think it's a really good question in the beginning on how do you adapt to different cultures, people, and organizations particularly, and how do you see, what is your biggest success factor in terms of change?
If I only knew. It's actually the question whether to adapt and how much to adapt and how much to be just curious and open. Because on the one side, I think everyone has a personality, and it's quite important to stick to your values and to your own personality. I think it would be maybe the wrong thing to say I'm coming and I'm just adapting completely 100% my style. On the other side, as a German, typically we are known to be totally no fun. We are known to be completely like organized, and plan is like from A to Z.
Except during the Oktoberfest.
Yeah, except for, you're right, but there's beer involved. So we have a certain reputation which I would not completely dispute to be true. So coming as a German into an environment like India, and we were talking about the Mumbai Indians and how it is to be in a stadium there, certainly requires a certain openness. And I think one of the things that certainly is a good precondition if you come to a new environment, and I can only encourage everyone to try, is to be open and to listen and to try to learn from your new environment. In my case, being so organized and kind of step-by-step oriented coming into India helped me a lot to see that fluidity that I found in India, where some people might call it chaos. I don't think it's chaos. It's a more fluid way of thinking and working, is quite necessary in an environment like this because of quite fast-changing environment or boundary conditions. Because if I have a plan today which is adapted to the boundary conditions that I see today, to the competition that I see today, to the technology that I see today, and the plan lasts 3 years, as I was outlining, in 3 years, a whole startup nation comes and goes. So my plan might be completely obsolete. So that's why I think what I found in India, anyways, in that part of the world, much more adapted is, you know, I might have a plan, but I have to be open to change the way how I get there. So I should always have a vision, which I think is also what you said. I need to know where I want to be as a company or as an individual. But if I go left or right, or I think I go first right and then left, I don't know in the beginning, so I have to then learn. So I think that's my personal learning when I came from a kind of a German environment to the Indian environment, and so I'm still very much learning here, because so many good things I can...
Which one is more difficult to adapt to, Dr. Raina, India or Sri Lanka?
No, I found neither India really difficult to adapt, nor anyways I think Sri Lanka and the warmth and the welcoming personalities that I found here are just overwhelming. So I think that there's no difficulty. But really the question is, how much can you as an individual gain out of that new way of culture, new way of the people? And I think it only enriches every individual to try come into a new environment.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. And absolutely brilliant. I think I'd like to take the next question, which has come in to Mahela. Here's an interesting one. When making decisions, regarding your profession, what do you prefer the most? Is it the gut feeling or the past data? So when you're trying to make decisions, which one do you stick to the most, the gut feeling or the past data?
I think if I'm talking with personal experience on the field, has to be the gut feeling, because like you have to react to situations which is in front of you. But obviously, you get a lot of data given to us on certain individuals, the players, the weaknesses, the strengths, how we can use certain options which is available, which are the bowlers, and tactically. But then the match scenarios, the situation changes all those decision-making processes. So on a match situation, it has to be the gut feeling, which I think, there could be a bowler, I feel that, he's the guy who's actually bowling really well in that situation, and I feel like, he's the one who's going to get me that wicket. So that is a decision that I have to make then and there. So we try and encourage everyone to actually make those decisions, whether it's a good decision or a bad decision. Without making those decisions, you don't understand, or there's no point us going back into the dressing room and thinking, I should have done that, I should have done this. I think the important thing is in those kind of environment, in those kind of situations, you have to make those decisions then and there. There's no point going back and thinking about it. But if you have to make future decisions on a different scale, that is when the data or analytical information that has been given to you comes into play. So if we are looking at selecting a team or a squad to tour England, then we'll be given data on the guys who have done well in those conditions, the bowlers who have done well on those conditions. Then we make decisions on that given data and see who's in form, and then make those kind of decisions. So there are different ways of you making decisions, whether it be gut or whether it be backed by data and an analytical point of view. But you have to be open for both options, and you have to be prepared to make those decisions. And that is where sometimes people have to change their thinking to adapt to all situations.
Thanks, Mala. I think you went into a bit of detail with that. Since we've got here, I want to ask you this question. It was in my script somewhere in the question and answer. I'm sure this is going to come in. You've been the coach. You are the coach of Mumbai Indians. That team now has star-studded players. I'm asking this question because the answer to this can help us learn on how we can manage people sometimes who are senior to us, who are much talented than us. You'll never know in our team, and you might have to manage them. Now, you have had players in that team like Michelle Johnson, Rohit Sharma, Lendl Simmons, and a lot more. Now, these are star-studded players. What do you really do to go in there fresh and demand authority or demand their control or get them to listen to you? Is there a mantra to do this? Or?
The first thing is that you cannot demand respect. You have to earn respect. So at no given time, you cannot demand anything from anybody. I think you need to earn respect, and that is by communication. That is by understanding how their mind works, how they react to situations, what triggers them, and how can I get 5 different individuals or 11 individuals to play in a unit and execute a game plan against the opposition. So you need to give them certain roles and identify how best they could adapt to those roles. End of the day, yes, there are superstars or, like you explained, they're big players, but it comes down to they're a professional and how you perform on the day, because it's a sport. In a corporate world, it's different. You probably have quarterly or half-year reports where you analyze your KPIs and all that. But on a cricket field, it's just the performance on the day, or few games, or in a tournament. So you could actually challenge them in different ways of demanding certain performances. But it's important that you allow them to express themselves as well, because as individual cricketers, as a high pressure situations, the best way to get results is to allow them to express themselves freely, and that's where they operate best. But to identify who are the best combination in that particular group would deliver. So you don't see them as big players, but they are equal components in a good unit, and that's where the team environment comes into play.
Right, very nicely demonstrated, Milo. Thank you so much. It gives us all new perspective. Don't look at them as big players or superstars. They're just components of a team which can be 11 at the end of the day and fixing the best possible combination. We've got a few more questions coming in. There's one, Dr. Raina, I don't know if you will answer this. What's the correct pronunciation of your name?
I get this asked every day, maybe 2-3 times. I say, pick your choice. I'm not fussed. I heard everything.
We have a more serious one as well coming your way. What are your personal techniques to adapt knowledge in an exponential world? How do you personally keep up? I'd love to hear this answer from you. You spoke of this a little while ago, but what are your techniques to keep up to the up-to-date knowledge in this fast-moving world?
Yeah, that's a very good, I think, a very good question. Everyone has its own, I think, techniques, probably very similar. So obviously it has a lot to do with the mobile phone and with looking at information on the web. I would encourage to look for trusted sources. Obviously now we have so many discussions around fake news and the question of trust. So pick your trusted sources. There are good sources out there. Most of them are free, but there are also paid sources. I think it's worthwhile thinking about subscribing to a few of the paid sources and investing the money. I mentioned Linda as one example. The other one is Coursera, in terms of more like going deeper. Because there's a difference between this kind of like snippet information that you want to grasp quickly between lunch and the next meeting, which is okay, so to get a bit up to speed what's going on, but that doesn't give anyone really the depth I think that is required. Because what I did not say in my few words, but I want to say now, is there's a difference between a fast-moving exponential world and confusing that with a superficial way of being. Nobody can become successful in a superficial way. So you are the absolute expert in your field. If we are talking about bringing something successful up and running, you have to be the master of what you are doing. Either you are a developer, or you're a product manager, or you're a marketeer, it doesn't matter. So you have to go deep. I was just saying that the depth that you acquire is not going to be lasting for 30 years like it was in the 1980s. It's maybe lasting for a year or less. So that's why the continuous learning is required. But so I encourage everyone to say, what is going to be my field of required depth for my job? At the same time, it is also good to say, what is my field of required depth of my passion, which hopefully is the same, but maybe not in all cases. So I spend quite a bit of time on these online portals, and I look at topics where I'm just genuinely interested in. Like, for example, right now I'm spending time to understand DevOps, which some of you might know what it is. I didn't know so much about before, but it's a significant, I think, tech kind of a way of developing software and making sure that we are keeping up in a fast-changing world with our products and services. But it can be anything. It can be also blockchain. So if you heard about blockchain, don't just be satisfied with a few high level of these articles that you read, and you read about Bitcoin, you read about all the hype and so on. That doesn't give you any depth. So I think if you want to go and you want to understand blockchain as a technology, I would encourage spend significant time. There's very good information again on these portals or on other portals where you can get really down and understand what is Ethereum, what does it mean smart contract. You can even understand the programming language, how you can use that, and maybe you do a little MVP yourself. I have done that. And then you go and understand the technology, and then you can really make use of it. So these are, I think, the two things. So there's a horizontal, like sniffing for news and this, but there's really big, and maybe you spend a couple of weeks and then you do your course and you go very deep, and that gives you a lot more, I think, richness for maybe creating something genuinely innovative.
It's quite comprehensive, Dr. Ryan, multiple ways on how you can improve your knowledge and stay up to date with what's happening. I think you're doing great.
Last point I forgot to say, so sorry for this. So the third element, I just want to say, one of the most important pieces is build your network of people. So don't only confine yourself, obviously, with the online and electronic media. I think one of the most important things for all of us is to build a network and talk to people, because many of the things that are really important you cannot even find necessarily in a written form. So it's really having a network out in the world beyond, as I said, the island, of course. And now these days there's no boundary for anyone to have physically to move, because I can run a video call, I can of course do email and messaging to tap into the knowledge and to have an exchange, or even have a virtual group for some experts. So that's maybe the third one in terms of how you should keep up to speed.
Thank you so much. I think it was a worthy addition, comprehensive, and there are multiple ways you can do this. You guys are doing quite well with the questions. I've got a lot flowing in, moderated questions coming in. Here's one for Mahila. Ever since you and Kumar retired, Sri Lankan cricket has changed a lot. So it is changed for a question coming about. So you know what this question is. Do you think you retired at the right time?
Definitely, yes. Because I think there were few things that we had to decide at that particular time, and the age, the body was telling you a different story. The next World Cup is next year, middle of next year, so that's 4 years away from where we stopped, and we knew that we couldn't be physically or mentally right for that World Cup, so we needed to give the team time to develop. So that was one decision. For me to leave Test cricket, I thought, it was a clean cut. When I finished one-day cricket, I should be moving away from Test cricket as well, and then start fresh of what I wanted to do. And obviously Kumar stayed a year longer so that the transition was smoother.
Was it something that you guys already agreed on?
Not really. I mean, these are things that we've spoken about. I mean, obviously we talk on those kind of decision makings, and obviously Kumar and I are partners in a lot of the other ventures that we've started later on, because we complement each other well when it comes to understanding what's right and wrong and going forward. So he's the good-looking one, I'm the brains, so that's how it works. But I think what you have to realize is the changes that needed to be made with the national team and what has aspired after us. Obviously, everyone knew that we were going to leave, and whether they were ready as an organization. So that people will say that, okay, it's our fault, but I don't think we were the decision makers in that process. We were still professionals playing for your country. I think that responsibility lies with the organization, whether they planned for the future and how structured they were. I think that is where things needs to be changed, and adaptability and future planning needs to be done. Coming back to whether we retired at the right time, it's always good to leave at a time when, as a professional, when you're right at the top, that's something that we felt was right. And at a time where people would say, why and why not? So that's a big difference between that. So as long as if you're still asking why we left, and I think that's a good position for us to be in.
It's not a selfish. And the question is still there. It's been 3 years, and the question is still there.
It's not a selfish way of thinking, but it's then you know you had made the right decision, and rather than people asking why aren't you, so yeah,
that would have been a really bad situation to be in than what you're in now. So thank you so much. Boiling back to what Imran Khan, I think, said in his Colin Cowdrey lecture, you must always retire when you're at your peak and not be at the mercy of the selectors, and you've adapted that. And the results of, I don't know, Sri Lanka hasn't been doing that well while you were there, but I'm sure will improve in time.
No, I think with any team, we have to be patient and give them time to adapt and develop. I mean, it is well documented where we have gone wrong, obviously, in the last 2 years since the changes were made. We were not consistent, and that is due to us trying too many things, too many players, not allowing players to settle into roles and allowing them to have the confidence. And you're talking about young cricketers who are learning the trade, and when you have a first-class cricket structure which is not developing cricketers that quickly, they actually learn to play international cricket on the job. While they do that, they have to learn all the pressures, all the the techniques and various other things that they need to learn. So it takes them time. So, but if you're then making changes, if you're failing, you're leaving them out of the team for a while and then bringing them back. So there's no consistency. So it took some of the youngsters longer to adapt to the system, and I think right now things a bit settled. So hopefully we are about a year and a half away from the World Cup, and hopefully we can have a settled team going towards that.
That's the same thing all of us hope as well. Thank you so much, Mahela. We've got another question. There's a question that's come about structure as well. I'll hold on to it. I'll bring it to you after I take the next question to Dr. Rainer. Dr. Rainer, this is the question. With the developing technology and it getting better than humans every day, isn't there a risk that human involvement will no longer be required one day?
Yeah, that is a very good question. Now we come to the philosophical part of the session. Everyone, I'm sure, has their own opinion and viewpoints. So, as you were talking about the decision making, and you indicated already there's the 2 time frames when you have a more like immediate decision to take, which is what you called more a gut feeling, and then if you have some more time to take decisions where you have the fact base and you can do analytics. The latter one can of course be more and more supported by analytics machines, which are what is called like even you can apply machine learning techniques and take more data in than any human, and can therefore also project most likely better than a human. Now the difference between that computation and this kind of real-time computation becomes less and less as the computers are becoming more powerful, which means in the end, if you project it out, pretty much you can say that decision taking, even on the short time scale that you were mentioning, more and more will be covered by computer programs. Is that something that is threatening? I don't think so. So far, the artificial intelligence that we see is very confined in terms of the topics that we apply them to. So one example is we are very much looking into what we call chatbots for supporting our customer care agents, and Sandra could talk much better than me about this topic because she's leading the initiative, to say that for specific areas where there's a large knowledge base around products and services or around problems that we have seen with customers, if somebody has a question, obviously a chatbot is very capable of answering a specific question, and if he's then outside of his sphere of knowledge, then you can default to a human. Now again, here maybe the area of competence will widen. So if we project it out again, we can assume that the conversational capabilities of bots also will increase. So over time, what is called the Turing test, in terms of can I detect whether this is a machine or a human behind the wall that is having a conversation with me, most likely will be passed more and more around topics by computers. Now my more philosophical view, and now we are like talking about things which we could talk in an evening also. If we project it out, will there be this notion of human versus machine? I think differently. I think it will be more a merger, whereby the humans will be more and more supported by machines, or you can of course have the other perspective of the machines will be supported by humans. Doesn't matter, because these are only two perspectives. And that's going to be the future. We see today already that with certain technologies we can augment our own capabilities, be it like glasses, be it on the medical side. I mentioned about the gene sequencing. Now there is technologies where we can do gene editing. Essentially you are firing up your word word processor program today and you edit your text. Tomorrow you fire your gene processor program and you edit your genes. That is reality today with CRISPR. So I think in the future we will see more and more complementing the human capabilities with machine capabilities, and it's not like one against the other, is my view. Of course you can have a different view, but I see it positively as long as we, keep the mind around that change, and we are not stepping aside. If someone wants to step aside and says, no, I try to stop the exponential development of what I tried to outline, I think that might be a mistake. So I think it's good to be always abreast of change.
All right, thank you so much. So it's how much you're intact and how much you're in with the game. You can, if you're up there, you can still remain with the game and continue to go ahead. Milo, the next question for you is about this whole thing about the structure. So you've been a real big advocate of correcting the structure of cricket in Sri Lanka, making it really good so the best players come through. What has happened is, just a few days ago to an Indian newspaper, Sri Lanka Cricket Board President has claimed that you and Kumar have a lot to do in Sri Lankan cricket's future. And he said that there's nothing wrong with the structure, because if there was something wrong in the structure, both of you couldn't have come in. Both of you came into cricket through that structure. So what really needs to change in this structure, Mahinda? And what is stopping us from making those changes?
I haven't seen the newspaper article to start with. The argument is that, yes, we've produced cricketers in that structure. We won a World Cup. We probably won 2 World Cups. But we came into 5 finals, World Cup finals. There's a huge argument, which is correct. But that all happened because we had a group of players who evolved and who did things on their own and was trying to be different. And that group of players came together at a certain era, which helped. But at the same time, just because, like the doctor said, if we think that system is going to have more cricketers come in the same way, then we haven't changed. Clearly so for us to keep up with the rest of the world and to be competitive, then we need to change. And we need to see what other countries are doing. And if we're not tapping into that and see how best we could beat them and be the best team in the world, then we're not making those changes. So just because that a system worked for us in the past 15 years doesn't mean that same system will, well, if they want to take that chance, then good luck to them. But what we've seen out there in the rest of the world is how best they are changing. And it's a simple theory. I mean, we have a first-class cricket structure which has 24 teams. Australia has the same population, has 5 teams. India has 1.5 billion, they have 30 teams. We have 20 million people, we have 24 teams. So we are diluting our talent, so we're playing quantity rather than quality. So while we keep the club cricket structure going, we need to come up with a plan that we play at a much higher level, our domestic cricket, get the cream, and then play a competition which is much more competitive. and challenge them and see who are the best who could represent Sri Lanka. In this scenario, that's why I said the guys are not developing into that. So there's a big bridge that they have to cross to be an international cricketer, to be a professional cricketer. So our first class cricket still is semi-professional. Guys are still going to work, coming at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, practice for an hour and a half. That is not going to provide international cricketers. Just because they're given contracts, and that is not the way forward. You have to be a fully professional cricketer if you want to be disciplined and compete with the rest of the world. So until we create that structure, we are going to be catching up, and we're going to be struggling to be consistent. So that is the change that we've been asking, and we haven't been asking that for the last 3 years. I'm not going against the current Sri Lankan cricket administrators. We've been asking for that change for the last 10, 15 years, and it hasn't happened. So every day that we delay this change, we are falling behind the rest of the world. And teams like Afghanistan and Ireland and all that is catching up because they have already made those changes. So unless we are open for change and embrace that, we're going to struggle to a certain extent, but we still produce talent, and then we will have players who will come and take responsibility and develop while they play international cricket and evolve. Yes, we will, because we have a naturally gifted players who this country will keep producing. But if you depend only on that, then you will not have the consistency that we're craving for at that level.
Absolutely. I think you've made absolute justice to the question with that answer. You can't depend on luck every time and wait for that magnificent player to come. You've got to get the system right so that the good players are pushed up. Finish off, I think I love the line. If they're trying to use the same technique they used 15 years ago, good luck to them. Right, Dr. Ryan, I've got a question coming your way, which is about balancing work life. I read it, let me, yeah, here's the one. You're the best example of work and personal life. Being the group COO of a big corporate whilst being married with 5 kids. What's the secret? Is there a secret to do this? Because if you tell us a secret, that's going to be worth $1 million. But on a serious note, how do you do it, Doctor?
The secret, I can tell you, the secret is a great wife. And in brackets, a great nanny. So, but seriously, that is a very important question. I think all of us, we have to think what are the priorities in life. We have to make a choice how much time we spend with the family and friends and how much time we spend with work. I personally do not make that much of a difference between life and work, but that's my own way of looking at it, because I feel we are spending so much time at work, or if work is sport, the same thing, a lot of time we spend. So if that is not my passion, somehow I'm wasting my time. So I think we should, rather than asking whether this is life and work, we should be asking where do we want to work so it's my life. So therefore that question for me is a fairly easy, because I enjoy every single minute at work as much as I enjoy every single minute, of course, with my family. And sometimes at work we have to also, have a private conversation with our colleagues, and sometimes even at home we might have a professional conversation with our colleagues as well. I feel in terms of stress, there is 2 types of stress we might want to be mindful of. I think there's a positive stress and there's a negative stress. And everyone has to observe in terms of what kind of stress do I have. I feel a negative stress is characterized by not being in control and not being in charge, feeling like driven by outside factors. Could be my boss, could be, I don't know what timeline to fulfill, could be something I really don't have much in control. So I think these we have to very much be cautious about. We can't completely avoid, I think, negative stress, but largely you should be careful and and be mindful about not being in negative stress situations. Positive stress, however, I feel if I have a let's say a product delivery where I'm working towards a deadline, and then I see the product actually, has come alive, and I can test it and I can give it to people and they enjoy. It might be a stressful, and it might be a long working hour kind of a week, but it is rewarding, right? And this is maybe even good because it keeps us awake, and it is something that we want to have. So distinguishing between bad stress and good stress may be important, but my personal thing again is I don't see so much work and life. For me, the life as such is precious, and as we are living longer and longer, however, still it's finite. There are people that are saying that we are going to be transcending into an infinite life, which connects to my earlier answer to say that if we are merging more and more technology and humans, maybe at some point in time we can say we live infinitely long. But I don't trust so much yet that is going to be hitting me, so I still enjoy the life right here and there also.
That lovely said. If you love what you do, then you don't feel like working, you're entertaining yourself throughout. We've got 10 minutes, a little less than 10 minutes now. So we've got a lot of questions coming in. I've asked most of them. Here's an interesting one, Mahela, for you. What would you have become if you didn't become a cricketer? I don't know if you've answered this question before, but at least I haven't heard it from you.
I don't know. I mean, it was a decision that I made when I was about 18, but I want to pursue my studies or have a go at cricket, being a national player. So obviously, if I didn't make the ranks, probably would have continued with my studies, and it would have taken me in a different direction. But I'm so happy that I made the left rather than the right. Because this was my passion, and had probably pushed me to become a better person and a better individual and learn a lot more. Because like Doctor said, you need to do something which your heart desires and have that passion to do that. So so I have no idea what would have become. Like I said, I made the right decision, but probably pursued my studies and ended up behind a desk somewhere, I guess.
And Sri Lanka would have lost an amazing right-hand batsman. Right, so what happens is we've got a few minutes left, and I want somebody to probably pick up a mic and ask a question for yourself. You haven't been... Yes, here's Charita. Can we send a microphone to him? Yeah, you can shout out if you're loud enough.
I'm going to ask this because I believe the answer is important to people not only in this room but maybe watching as well. This is a bit of a tough question, I think, but carries on from what you ended your speech with. You, if I'm correct, came from a school that was very majority heavy, fairly insular background. Except for sport, you may not have been exposed to a lot there. But having been on a very diverse team, led a team, and being on a wider stage, what would you want to share with the younger people, particularly who may not have, sadly, even been exposed to other bits of our culture? What would you want them to know?
Oh, it's a brilliant question. I think we learn about life through experiences, and every stage in your life you learn something. And I grew up, I was 6 when the Civil War started in '83. I literally grew up in that war for 25 years or so, could be more. I almost lost 2 of my friends who got caught to 2 bombs. One of my friends lost both the parents on the same day, the ThePapare bomb. And having gone through all that, like I've obviously, social media, I've put it across when this incident happened, that you don't wish that to happen to your next generation, and not for my kids or anyone else's. I think for the next generation, the most important thing is to understand the values, because I feel that we are going away from our values. It doesn't matter which religion that you are, or the race or the caste or ethnicity. I think each and every religion preaches the same thing, good values. And once you go away from that good values, that's why I started my speech with, yes, the technology is important, but the values are as well. And for a country to evolve and to pursue the end goal that where we all want to be, like Rainer says, we shouldn't look at as an island nation, we should be looking global, we should be challenging the rest of the world with the talent pool that we have. Our talent pool is actually, it's not commodities, it's actually the people. What this country is producing is intelligent people. And that is how we should look at this country. And to do that, we cannot look at that through a tunnel vision, through race, religion, or ethnicity. We have to look at as a Sri Lankan. That is the brand that we need to take to the rest of the world. And to do that, that's where we need to teach our next generation that values. From our school system to beyond that. That's something that we need to advocate, and that's something that we need to push. Don't just get compounded into the books. Look beyond that. There's a lot more to learn around you, a lot more to learn through cultures, a lot more to learn through different people, and embrace that. And that is the direction that we need to take as a country, and brand Sri Lanka, not brand something else.
All right, thank you so much. A very nice question, complemented by a beautiful answer. Anybody else wants to have a go at any of these gentlemen here with any of your questions? If not, I have the final two questions for these two gentlemen and wrap it up. Dr. Rainer, the question here is to you, is what do you really do when you're demotivated by something and want to gather all the energy to come back? The question I have for Mahela is also something very similar, but in a cricket perspective.
Yeah, that is very simple. I typically go and run.
How many kilometers?
That depends on the level of...
That's why I said, yeah, level of demotivation.
Right. No, that's really one of my passions. So I think sports is definitely something where we can see that as a human we are not made to just sit and work and be behind a desk and in the office, which even doesn't have a window. So I think it's very important to go out and to be also be physically active, because in a healthy body you will have a healthy mind. In mens sana corpore sano is what the Latin word is. So I think it's very true. We can't be just working and sitting and eating and drinking. We should be active. So bringing our kids out, to your point also, giving them a real world experience beyond all the early exposure to tablets and mobile phones and virtual reality, I think is very important, because you can't learn. Actually, again, as a physicist, I'm just referring back to research which shows that the brain development as such is dependent upon a certain sequence of physical exposure to the real world. So if you would have a kid that really only grows up with a 2D screen, there is going to be an impact on the real development of that particular kid. So I think we should be all cautious by all openness to technology, and certainly my kids grow up with technology also, but limit the time or the screen time. Actually, in our house, there's not really much TV at all, so they have some certain time for tablets and mobile phones, but the main part is get out, be physical also in a progressively digital world.
Absolutely. Love the line you said, healthy mind is always found inside a healthy body. Mahela, something very similar about coming back from demotivation or failure. You've been in, nicely drafted question, you've been in a team that lost World Cup finals 4 times. I wouldn't have even asked this question if we didn't make up in 2014. I'd let you forget that. But we won in 2014. 2 of the times that we failed in the final, you were captain. How do you manage to recollect everybody after such massive failure? There's this famous photo in the 2012 T20 World Cup that happened in Colombo. We lost to West Indies at the presentation ceremony. You see the whole Sri Lankan team standing there with zero reaction, absolutely disappointed, not having an answer to what happened. But how do you roll back from a situation as such 4 times to come back and win something like in 2014?
Yeah, it was devastating for a lot of us. And like you said, if we didn't win the 14 World Cup, that group of players would have walked out with a monkey on our back thinking that we never did that. But we were lucky enough to win a World Cup. Each and every time that we lost a World Cup final, we did not know exactly what hit us. But how we gathered our thoughts and how we managed to get together as a group was that we realized that we are a tiny island nation and we are challenging the rest of the world. And we've got to 5 World Cup finals within a space of 10 years. So obviously the processes, the structures, the methods that we're thinking is correct. We don't have to do too many changes. But we just need to believe in ourselves when it comes to it's at the end of the day, it's a sport and reaction to situations. And 4 years of hard work comes down to 1 day or a 1 session or could be a 1 over, and that makes a difference. So we needed to simplify and say we just need to go and enjoy those finals a bit better. We need to back ourselves and express ourselves and be proud that, you know, we are representing our country and enjoy, because it took us 5 World Cups, but we won 1 as a group. But the consistency that we showed as a group was the most important thing, that we stuck to the values that we believed in that dressing room, and we worked hard, and we probably was the most consistent team in that decade. So that was something that we were very proud of, and that's something that, yes, we've lost 4 World Cups, but that processes, that work ethic, that understanding that we had in that group is something that we cannot forget, and no one can take away from that. You know, no one can take that away from us. So that's how we regrouped, and that's how we believed in ourselves and believed in our ability, and we managed to push that last World Cup and win that. So that was a brilliant feeling, and yes, we definitely celebrated that afterwards.
I think everyone in Sri Lanka celebrated that like never before. Thank you so much, Mahela Jayawarden, and thank you so much, Dr. Ryan. I think both of you had given us some quality answers to some amazing questions that came in. It's a proud moment for me. I'll even go and tell my grandchildren that I was a moderator at the Change Forum, which featured Dr. Ryan and Mahela Jayawarden. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Thank you so very much. Thanks, Mahela. As they walk down from the stage, I'd like to invite Dinara Wagawatha to come up maybe and give the note of thanks. Ladies and gentlemen, Dinara.
Okay. Is it a good evening? Come on, guys. You got the best cricketer in this world and a Dutchman who's with us. Can we have a... Was it a good evening or not? Yes. Thank you. So I have got the chance to say the thank yous, which is the most easiest one, rather than sitting there. Right? So first and foremost, I would like to thank you, Mahela. The only MJ, I would say the second MJ I know after Michael Jackson. Right? So thank you, Mahela, for taking your time, coming here and, you know, with your busy schedules and things that you do, to coming here and, you know, sparing your time and, you know, giving us some great, you know, wisdom, insights, and even knowledge in terms of how you actually conquer change. And Dr. Rainer, our very own doctor, thank you so much for accepting the invitation as well. And Charlie Austin, I would like to thank him for arranging all the, you know, the administrative sides as well. Then our media partners, who is Derona, BBC, Daily Mirror, our very own ThePapare, and the big organizing committee from the Change Forum, led by Prashantan. Thank you guys for the amazing organization that you did with all the, you know, discussions that you had with Dr. Rainer, Mahela to get this thing coming in, right? And then most importantly, to our very own GCO, Supun Veerasinghe, and Sandra D'Souza for giving the guidance, the vision for this entire program, which is running on the 6th consecutive time ongoing and is counting. So thank you so much, Sandra, for giving this vision in terms of carrying change and displaying change to the entire world, the entire dialogue community, as well as Sri Lankan, as well as international. And last but not least, I would like to thank Farik and Naveen Paris for being the sponsors for us for digital as well as dialogue broadband, for making this event a success as always. And just to keep a word just before I leave, from all this change and the entire discussion that we had, there was one piece that was always repeating and coming up, which is, if you really want to change, you need to do this, which is making your decisions, whether you really want to change or not. So I would like to hand over back to Ajmal to take you through the, conclude the event. So thank you very much. And you have been an amazing crowd right throughout from 3:30 until now. So thank you so much, and hope all of you have got immense full of wisdom and knowledge from this forum. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dinara. Like I said, we are getting to the conclusion of today's event. I'd like to invite Sandra to come up on stage to hand over the tokens of appreciation to our speakers. You can do it there too? But I think photographs will be easier here.
Only because, like Rainer, I can't make the jump on the stage. Between two spots, when he's jumped up on stage, I have to take a longer walk to walk.
Get all the way there.
About the gene pool, if I had a chance to exchange some and make a difference, Rainer, can I borrow your genes for 1 foot more?
Modification, right. What we'll do is I'll now invite both our speakers to come up and collect the tokens of appreciation. First up in the order that they spoke, Dr. Rainer Doshman. Ladies and gentlemen, round of applause for this man who's spoken beautifully and given us some amazing answers.
Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us.
Dr. Rainer, I'd like you to stay on stage, please, just for a moment. Up next, Mahela Jayawardena. For clearing so many doubts most of us had in terms of cricket and his life. Beautiful answers, amazing talk. I now like to invite Leshani to come up to get the signatures on the memory book of the Change Forum, in which all our speakers have signed. It will be a privilege for us to have the signatures of both these gentlemen as well. Mahel has done it. Dr. Rainer will now mark his moment of presence at the Change Forum 2018 that just concluded. Thank you so much to both the gentlemen for being amazing speakers. Thank you so much to all of you for being here, our sponsors, and everyone who's watched us live on YouTube, MyTV, or Dialogue Television. It's been a pleasure having you, and we've loved change. We're going to adapt to change. See you again in the next edition of Change Forum. Have yourselves a great night. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen.